Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a document that we all see, but let's be honest, we rarely ever read, the Privacy Policy. We're going to break down Xylem's policy and follow the journey your personal information takes.
Right, so let's start with the question. You're on a website, you just want to see the content, and boom, that little box pops up. We all just click accept. But what does that actually do? What process does it kick off? What are you really agreeing to? Okay, let's get into it. First stop on our data's big adventure, figuring out who's really running the show. Because, in the world of data privacy, it's not always just the company whose name is on the building.
So the policy uses this pretty formal-sounding term, responsible entity. You might also see it called a data controller. Just think of this as the captain of the ship for your data. They're the ones who are legally on the hook for handling it properly.
And here is where it gets really interesting. The captain of your data actually changes depending on what you're doing. So if you're just browsing their website, it's the site operator who's responsible. But if you go and apply for a job, that responsibility shifts to the specific Xylem company you sent your application to. It all depends on how you're interacting with them. All right, so we know who's in charge. The next big question has to be, what kind of information are we actually talking about here? And let me tell you, it's a lot more than just your name and email. Your data isn't coming from just one place. It's flowing in from all these different streams. Yeah, you give them some of it directly when you fill out a form, but a whole lot of it gets collected automatically, through cookies while you browse. Then you add in data from their partners and even stuff they find from public sources, and you start to see the bigger picture. This table really shows how it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. The data they grab is totally tailored to who you are. If you're just a visitor, they're looking at technical stuff like your IP address. If you're a business partner, it's about your commercial history. And if you're applying for a job, well, they might look at everything from your past jobs to your public social media profiles.
Okay, so they're collecting on this info from all these different places. But why? What's the reason? What's the justification for all of this?
Companies can't just collect your data for the fun of it. Thanks to modern privacy laws, they need to have what's called a legal basis. It's basically their official, lawful reason for processing your personal info. And this policy boils it down to four main justifications. Some are pretty obvious, right? Like they need your data to fulfill a contract if you buy something. Others fall under this broad category of legitimate interest, which can be anything from making their website better to preventing fraud. Then, of course, there's your consent, like when you tick a box for a newsletter. And finally, sometimes they just have to collect it because the law or a court tells them to.
But the journey doesn't stop there. Your data is on the move. So the next stop we need to talk about is, who else gets to see it?
Turns out, your info can be shared with a few different groups. You've got the expected ones, like other companies in the Xylem family, and the service providers who work for them. But it can also be shared with government agencies if the law requires it. And here's one people often miss. Social media platforms, if you use one of their login buttons or share plugins on the site. Now, since data is being shared within a huge global company, it brings up a really important question. Is your personal information actually leaving your own country? And the answer, very simply, is yes. The policy is upfront about it. Your data can be moved to and stored in other countries, like the US, which might have totally different data protection rules. To do that legally, they use things called standard contractual clauses to make sure it's still protected. Okay, I know this can all sound a little overwhelming, but this last section, this is the most important part. This is about your rights and the tools you have to actually manage your own data.
The policy makes it clear. You have some real, powerful rights. You can ask for a copy of your data. You can tell them to fix it if it's wrong. You can even ask them to delete it. And here's a huge one. You have the right to opt out of them sharing your data for targeted advertising. That's a big deal.
And using these rights is actually way easier than you might think. We all know the classic unsubscribe link in an email. Replying stop to a text message works too. But you can also go deeper, into the cookie settings on the website. Or even better, use a browser with global privacy control built in to automatically tell sites you don't want to be tracked. Now, for those more formal rights, like getting a copy of your data or deleting it, they give you a direct line. You can shoot an email to their data privacy office, or probably even easier, just use the Data Subject Access Request form, the DSAR form, that's right there on their website. So there you have it. The journey your data takes is complicated, no doubt about it. It has a bunch of different stops, different users, and a whole list of reasons behind it. But understanding a policy like this, well, that's the absolute first step. It changes you from being just a passenger to being the driver ready to take the wheel of your own digital life.